Every private equity acquisition gets audited. Almost none of those audits get read the way they're written. Auditors don't lie. They just learn a different language. Aggressive assumptions. Elevated leverage profile. Limited downside protection. Translate those three phrases correctly, and you're reading a company's obituary 5 years early. This is what the flags actually mean, and why almost nobody outside the deal room ever learns to read them. Private equity firms don't buy companies to run them forever. They buy them to sell them, usually within 5 to 7 years. Every audit that happens along the way exists to serve that exit, not to protect the company. That single fact changes what an audit is for. It's not a checkup. It's a liability shield. Segment 1. The leverage language. When an auditor writes elevated leverage profile, they're describing a company carrying debt equal to 6, 7, sometimes 8 times its earnings. Healthy companies run at 2 to 3 times. The auditor isn't required to say this company cannot survive a recession. They're required to flag the ratio. Interpretation is left to the reader. Almost nobody outside the deal reads the ratio. The employees don't see it. The customers don't see it. Even most of the board doesn't ask what it means. Segment 2. The aggressive assumptions flag. This phrase shows up next to revenue projections. It means the growth numbers used to justify the purchase price don't match historical performance. One retail acquisition projected 12% annual growth. The company had grown 2% a year for the previous decade. The auditor flagged it. The deal closed anyway. Segment 3. Limited downside protection. This is the flag that should terrify employees most, because it means there's no cushion. No slack in the model for a bad quarter, a lost contract, a rate hike. When this flag appears, the company isn't being bought to grow. It's being bought at the exact valuation, where any bad month becomes an existential one. Segment 4. Where the fees go regardless. Here's the part almost nobody clocks. The private equity firm collects a management fee, typically 2% of the fund annually, whether the portfolio company thrives or collapses. The audit flags the risk. The firm collects the fee. The company absorbs the downside. That's not a bug in the system. That's the system. But here's what the retrospectives never mention. The auditors aren't the villains of this story. They're doing exactly what they're hired to do. Flag risk in language precise enough to survive a lawsuit, vague enough that almost nobody reads it as a warning. The real mechanism isn't deception. It's translation loss. A phrase that means this company might not survive the decade gets filed as a routine footnote. Toys R Us carried debt at nearly 7 times earnings after its 2005 buyout. The audits flagged it, year after year, in exactly this language. Nobody outside the deal room acted on it until the bankruptcy filing. Whew. So here's the question we're sitting with. If every warning sign is on paper, written by professionals whose job is to write it accurately, the failure isn't a lack of information. It's a lack of anyone positioned to act on it. That's the real audit finding, not the leverage ratio, the org chart,